Welcome to the Story Lab. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through our kitchen as I poured myself a cup of coffee. Another day, another chance to savor the life I'd built. Daddy! Sophia's voice rang out as she bounded into the room, her pigtails bouncing. Can we go to the park today? I scooped her up, planting a kiss on her forehead. Sorry, sweetie. Daddy's got a big meeting at the restaurant. But how about this weekend? Her face fell for a moment, then brightened. Promise? Cross my heart, I said, setting her down as Logan trudged in, rubbing his eyes. Morning, champ. I ruffled his hair. Ready for school? He grunted in response, reaching for the cereal box. Typical preteen. Lauren breezed in, paintbrush tucked behind her ear. Morning, everyone, she said, giving me a quick peck on the cheek. How's the masterpiece coming along? I asked, gesturing to the paint-splattered apron she wore. She sighed, pouring herself some coffee. Slow. I just can't seem to get the colors right. You'll get there, I assured her. Your work is amazing, Lauren. It's only a matter of time before the rest of the world sees it too. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Thanks, Connor. I hope you're right. I glanced at my watch. I've got to run. Big pitch meeting with potential investors. For the new location? Lauren asked, buttering toast for the kids. I nodded, gulping down the last of my coffee. Yep. If all goes well, we'll be breaking ground on the new restaurant by next month. That's great, honey, Lauren said, but her tone was distracted. She was staring out the window, paintbrush twirling absently between her fingers. I kissed her cheek, then bent down to hug the kids. Be good for your mom, okay? I'll try to be home for dinner. As I grabbed my briefcase and headed for the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Lauren had been distant lately, spending more and more time in her studio. I made a mental note to plan a date night soon. We both needed a break from the daily grind. The drive to my flagship restaurant, Mitchell's, was short but gave me time to collect my thoughts. I'd worked hard to build this mini empire of gourmet eateries, starting from a single food truck to now owning 5 successful restaurants across Seattle. Today's meeting could pave the way for number 6. As I pulled into my reserved spot, my phone buzzed. A text from Lauren, good luck with the meeting. Love you. I smiled, tension easing from my shoulders. We were okay. Just busy. Morning, boss. My head chef, Carlos, greeted me as I walked in. Ready to wow some suits? I grinned, straightening my tie. You know it. Is everything prepped for the tasting menu? Carlos nodded, leading me to the kitchen. We've got it all set up in the private dining room. I think the lobster risotto might seal the deal on its own. Perfect, I said, inhaling the mouth-watering aromas. Let's knock their socks off. The meeting went even better than I'd hoped. By the time the investors left, bellies full and checkbooks open, we had secured funding for not 1, but 2 new locations. I was riding high as I drove home, already planning the big reveal to Lauren. She'd been my rock through the lean years, believing in me when no one else did. This success was as much hers as it was mine. The house was quiet when I walked in, which was unusual. Lauren? I called out. Kids. In here. Lauren's voice drifted from her studio. I found her surrounded by canvases, paint smeared across her cheek. She looked up as I entered, a small smile on her face. How'd it go? She asked, setting down her palette. I couldn't contain my grin. We got the funding. For 2 new restaurants. Lauren's eyes widened. 2? Connor, that's amazing. She stood up, wrapping her arms around me. I'm so proud of you. I held her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of turpentine and lavender. I couldn't have done it without you, I murmured into her hair. She pulled back, a shadow crossing her face. I haven't done much lately, except hide away in here. Hey, I cupped her face in my hands. You've supported me every step of the way. And your art. Lauren, it's incredible. The world just needs to catch up. She leaned into my touch, eyes closing briefly. I hope you're right. Sometimes I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. Tell you what, I said, an idea forming. There's an art exhibition next week at the Sinclair Gallery. Why don't we go? It could be good for you to network, maybe get some inspiration. Lauren's eyes lit up. The Sinclair Gallery? Connor, that's one of the most prestigious in Seattle. Are you sure we can get in? I winked. Leave it to me. Consider it done. She squealed, throwing her arms around me again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. This was what it was all about, building a life, supporting each other's dreams. I had it all: a thriving business, a beautiful family, and a wife who still made my heart race after all these years. Little did I know, our perfect life was about to be turned upside down. The Sinclair Gallery buzzed with energy as Lauren and I stepped inside. The walls were adorned with vibrant canvases, each one vying for attention. Lauren's eyes sparkled as she took it all in, her grip on my arm tightening with excitement. Connor, look at that piece, she whispered, pointing to a large abstract painting. The use of color is incredible. I nodded, trying to see what she saw. Art had never been my strong suit, but I loved watching Lauren in her element. She practically glowed as she moved from piece to piece, drinking in every detail. Can I get you a drink, sir? Madam? A waiter appeared at our side, offering a tray of champagne flutes. Thank you, I said, handing one to Lauren before taking one for myself. Cheers to your future masterpiece being displayed here. Lauren clinked her glass against mine, a shy smile playing on her lips. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm just happy to be here. As we made our way through the gallery, I couldn't help but notice the admiring glances Lauren was receiving. She looked stunning in an emerald green dress that hugged her curves, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. I felt a surge of pride mixed with a twinge of possessiveness. Connor and Lauren Mitchell, what a pleasure to see you here. We turned to see Rebecca Sinclair gliding towards us, her silk pantsuit rustling softly. She air-kissed Lauren's cheeks before shaking my hand. Rebecca, thank you for having us, I said, smiling politely. It's quite an impressive collection you've put together. She beamed, her perfectly manicured hand resting on Lauren's arm. Oh, you're too kind. But tell me, Lauren, are you still painting? I remember being quite taken with your work at the charity auction last year. Lauren blushed, ducking her head slightly. I am, yes. Though nothing worthy of a place like this, I'm afraid. Nonsense, a deep voice cut in. A tall, distinguished-looking man appeared at Rebecca's side. Any work from the talented Mrs. Mitchell would be a welcome addition to our gallery. Rebecca's smile widened. Ah, perfect timing. Connor, Lauren, allow me to introduce my husband and partner, Julian Sinclair. Julian's handshake was firm, his gaze intense as it settled on Lauren. It's a pleasure to finally meet you both. I've heard wonderful things about your restaurants, Connor. And Lauren, I must say, your reputation precedes you in the art world. Lauren's eyes widened. It does? Julian chuckled, the sound rich and warm. Indeed. Your piece at the charity auction caused quite a stir among our regulars. In fact, I was hoping to discuss the possibility of featuring your work in our upcoming show. I felt Lauren stiffen beside me, her breath catching. Are you serious? I mean, that would be incredible. Absolutely serious, Julian said, his smile growing. Perhaps we could set up a time to view your portfolio? I have a feeling you've been hiding some real gems from the world. Lauren turned to me, her eyes shining with excitement. Connor, can you believe this? I forced a smile, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling in my gut. It's great, honey. You deserve it. Rebecca clapped her hands together. Oh, this is wonderful. And Connor, I had an idea I wanted to run by you as well. Have you ever considered partnering your restaurants with our art events? I think there could be some fantastic cross-promotion opportunities. My interest piqued despite my reservations. That's an intriguing idea, Rebecca. I'd be interested in hearing more. Excellent, she beamed. Why don't we set up a lunch meeting next week? We can discuss the details while Julian and Lauren talk art. I nodded, my arm instinctively tightening around Lauren's waist. Sounds good. We'll have our assistants coordinate. Julian's eyes never left Lauren as he spoke. I look forward to delving into your creative world, Lauren. I have a feeling we're going to create something truly special together. The way he said together sent a chill down my spine. I watched as Lauren blushed under his intense gaze, her smile wider than I'd seen in months. Well, we should continue making our rounds, Rebecca said, linking her arm with Julian's. Enjoy the rest of the exhibition, and we'll be in touch soon. As they walked away, Lauren turned to me, practically vibrating with excitement. Can you believe it, Connor? A show at the Sinclair Gallery. This could be my big break. I pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I'm happy for you, sweetheart. You've worked hard for this. But as I watched Julian glance back at us, his eyes lingering on Lauren, I couldn't shake the feeling that our perfect life was about to get a lot more complicated. The weeks following the art exhibition flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Lauren threw herself into preparing for her upcoming gallery show with a passion I hadn't seen in years. Every spare moment was spent in her studio, emerging only for meals and sleep, her clothes perpetually speckled with paint. I should have been thrilled for her. This was the opportunity she'd been dreaming of, the recognition she deserved. But as the days passed, a nagging sense of unease grew in the pit of my stomach. It started small. A missed family dinner here, a forgotten school pickup there. Lauren was consumed by her work, and while I understood the importance of this show, I couldn't help but feel like our family was being left behind. Daddy, when is Mommy going to come to my soccer game? Sophia asked one evening as I tucked her into bed. I smoothed her hair back, forcing a smile. Soon, sweetheart. Mommy's just very busy with her art right now, but I'm sure she'll make the next one. Sophia's lower lip trembled, but she promised she'd come to this one. My heart clenched. I know, honey. I'll talk to her, okay? As I closed Sophia's door, I heard the front door open. Lauren's laughter drifted up the stairs, followed by a deeper chuckle that I recognized as Julian's. I made my way downstairs, my jaw clenching involuntarily. Lauren stood in the entryway, her cheeks flushed with excitement as Julian leaned against the doorframe. "Oh, Connor," Lauren said, spotting me. I didn't realize how late it was. Julian and I lost track of time at the gallery. I forced a neutral expression. "No problem. How's the show coming along?" Julian answered before Lauren could. "Brilliantly. Your wife is a true talent, Connor. I think this show is going to put her on the map." "That's great," I said, not quite meeting his eyes. "Lauren, can I talk to you for a minute?" She nodded, turning to Julian. "Thanks for the ride home. I'll see you tomorrow?" "Bright and early," he replied, his gaze lingering on her a beat too long for my comfort. "Good night, Lauren." "Connor." As soon as the door closed, I turned to Lauren. "Sophia was pretty upset you missed her soccer game." Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh no, was that today? I completely forgot. I feel terrible." "She said you promised you'd be there," I said, trying to keep the accusation out of my voice. Lauren's shoulders slumped. "I did, didn't I? I'll make it up to her, I swear. It's just been so hectic with the show preparations." I ran a hand through my hair, frustration building. "I get that, Lauren, but our kids need you too. And frankly, so do I. We've barely seen you these past few weeks." I know, she said, reaching for my hand. "I'm sorry, Connor. It's just, this is such a huge opportunity. I can't mess it up." I squeezed her hand, trying to push down my doubts. "I understand. Just try to find a balance, okay? We miss you." She nodded, leaning in to kiss me softly. "I promise I'll do better. How about we have a family day this weekend? Just the four of us?" "That sounds perfect," I said, pulling her into a hug. As I held her, I couldn't help but notice the faint scent of unfamiliar cologne clinging to her clothes. The next morning, I made a decision. As soon as I got to the restaurant, I called Sandra Miller, a private investigator I'd used in the past for background checks on potential business partners. "Sandra, it's Connor Mitchell. I need your help with something sensitive." "Of course, Mr. Mitchell. What can I do for you?" I took a deep breath, hating myself for what I was about to do. "I need you to look into someone for me. His name is Julian Sinclair. He's an art curator, runs the Sinclair Gallery with his wife. May I ask what you're looking for specifically?" Sandra's voice was professional, non-judgmental. I hesitated, then plunged ahead. "Anything suspicious? Particularly any history of inappropriate relationships with artists he's worked with. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I see. Mr. Mitchell, are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes, what we find out can't be unknown. I'm sure, I said, my resolve strengthening. I need to know what kind of man I'm dealing with. All right, Sandra said. I'll start digging. I'll have a preliminary report for you in a few days. As I hung up, guilt warred with determination in my chest. I hated going behind Lauren's back like this, but the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't let up. Something wasn't right with Julian Sinclair, and I was going to find out what it was. The next few days were tense. Lauren continued to spend long hours at the gallery, coming home late with stories of Julian's brilliant insights and connections. Each time she mentioned his name, my jaw clenched a little tighter. Finally, on Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Sandra. Mr. Mitchell, I have that information you requested. Are you somewhere private? I quickly excused myself from the restaurant floor, heading to my office. I am now. What did you find? Sandra's voice was grim. I think you'd better sit down for this, Mr. Mitchell. It's not good news. As she detailed her findings, my world began to crumble. Julian Sinclair had a history of manipulating and seducing up-and-coming female artists, using his influence to further their careers in exchange for other favors. There's no concrete evidence of illegal activity, Sandra concluded, but there's a clear pattern of behavior. He finds talented women, showers them with attention and opportunities, and then, well, you can guess the rest. My free hand clenched into a fist. And his wife? Rebecca? Sandra's voice softened. From what I've gathered, Mrs. Sinclair seems to be aware of her husband's proclivities. There are rumors that she turns a blind eye in exchange for maintaining their lifestyle and status in the art world. I felt sick to my stomach. So she's complicit? It appears so, Mr. Mitchell. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. No, thank you, Sandra. You've done exactly what I asked. Can you send me a detailed report? Of course. I'll email it to you within the hour. And Mr. Mitchell, be careful. The Sinclairs have a lot of influence in this city. After hanging up, I sat at my desk, head in my hands. How could I tell Lauren? Would she even believe me? The sound of my office door opening startled me. I looked up to see Carlos, concern etched on his face. Everything okay, boss? You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a smile. Just some family stuff, Carlos. Nothing to worry about. He nodded, unconvinced. If you say so. The new shipment of wine just arrived. Want to come take a look? Yeah, sure, I said, grateful for the distraction. Lead the way. As we walked through the restaurant, I couldn't shake the dread settling in my chest. I had to confront Lauren, but how? That evening, I arrived home to find Lauren humming in the kitchen, a paintbrush tucked behind her ear. Connor, you're home early, she said, smiling brightly. I tried to return the smile, but it felt forced. Yeah, we need to talk, Lauren. Her smile faltered. What's wrong? I took a deep breath. It's about Julian Sinclair. Lauren's eyes narrowed. What about him? I had him investigated, I admitted, bracing for her reaction. You what? Lauren's voice was sharp, her eyes flashing with anger. Connor, how could you? I held up my hands. I know. It was wrong. But Lauren, there's something you need to know about him. No. She cut me off. I don't want to hear it. I can't believe you'd go behind my back like this. Don't you trust me? Of course I trust you, I said, reaching for her hand. She pulled away. It's him I don't trust. Lauren shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. You're just jealous. You can't stand that someone else sees value in my work. That's not true, I protested. Lauren, please, just listen to me. But she was already walking away. I have to go. I'm meeting Julian to discuss the show layout. Lauren, wait. I called after her, but the slam of the front door was my only answer. I sank onto the couch, feeling defeated. How had things gone so wrong so quickly? My phone buzzed with an email notification. Sandra's report. I opened it, scrolling through the damning evidence of Julian's past indiscretions. With each line, My resolve strengthened. I had to protect Lauren, even if she didn't want my protection. As I sat there, planning my next move, I couldn't shake the feeling that our perfect life was slipping through my fingers. But I wasn't going to let Julian Sinclair destroy everything we'd built. Not without a fight. The tension in our house was palpable. Lauren and I moved around each other like wary strangers, the air thick with unspoken accusations. She spent more and more time at the gallery, coming home late with the scent of unfamiliar cologne clinging to her clothes. One evening, as we sat at opposite ends of the dinner table, the silence became unbearable. "Lauren, we need to talk about this," I said, setting down my fork. She looked up, her eyes guarded. "Talk about what, Connor?" "You know what? Julian Sinclair. The late nights. The missed family dinners. Something's not right here." Lauren sighed, pushing her plate away. "Not this again. I told you, it's just work." "Is it?" I challenged, sliding Sandra's report across the table. "Because this tells a different story." She glanced at the folder, then back at me. "What is this?" "The truth about Julian Sinclair. His history of manipulating artists, of seducing them. Lauren, he's using you." Lauren's face flushed with anger. "How dare you? Julian believes in me, in my work. He's giving me the chance you never did." Her words hit me like a physical blow. "That's not fair. I've always supported your art." "Supported?" She laughed bitterly. "You tolerated it, Connor, like it was a cute hobby. Julian sees it for what it is, my passion, my calling." I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice calm. "Lauren, please. Just read the report. There's a pattern here." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "No, I won't read your lies. You're just jealous, Connor. You can't stand that someone else appreciates me." "That's not true," I protested. "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need your protection," she spat. "I need your trust." But clearly, that's too much to ask. I watched helplessly as she stormed out of the room. A moment later, I heard the front door slam. My phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. "Going to the art retreat with Julian and Rebecca. Don't wait up." I slumped in my chair, defeat washing over me. How had we come to this? The next morning, I woke to an empty bed and a note on Lauren's pillow. "Gone to the retreat. Back Sunday. We'll talk then." I crumpled the note in my fist, frustration and fear warring inside me. I couldn't let her go through with this. Grabbing my phone, I dialed Sandra's number. "Mr. Mitchell?" Her voice was groggy with sleep. "Sandra, I need your help. Lauren's gone to an art retreat with Julian. I need you to follow them." There was a pause. "Are you sure about this, Mr. Mitchell? Once we cross this line—" "I'm sure," I said, my resolve hardening. "I need to know the truth." "All right," she sighed. "Send me the details. I'll keep you updated." As I hung up, guilt gnawed at my conscience. Was I really going to spy on my wife? But then I remembered the look in Julian's eyes when he gazed at Lauren, the way she lit up around him. I had to know. The day crawled by, each minute an agony of uncertainty. I tried to focus on work, on the kids, but my mind kept drifting to Lauren. Finally, my phone buzzed. A text from Sandra. "You need to see this." Attached was a photo. My heart stopped as I opened it. There, in crystal clear detail, was Lauren, in Julian's arms, kissing. My world shattered. I don't remember much of the rest of that day. I moved through it in a haze, going through the motions of normalcy for the kids' sake. That evening, as I sat alone in our bedroom, staring at the damning photo, a soft knock startled me. "Daddy?" Sophia's voice was small. "Are you okay?" I quickly locked my phone, forcing a smile. "Of course, sweetheart. What's up?" She climbed onto the bed, curling into my side. "You look sad. Is it because Mommy's gone?" My heart clenched. "I just miss her, that's all. But she'll be back soon." Sophia nodded, her little face serious. "Don't worry, Daddy. I'll take care of you until she comes back." I hugged her tight, fighting back tears. "Thank you, sweetie. That means a lot." As Sophia drifted off to sleep beside me, I made a decision. For our children's sake, I had to confront Lauren. We needed to fix this, or I couldn't bring myself to finish the thought. Instead, I closed my eyes, praying for strength for the confrontation to come. The next 2 days were a blur of anxiety and dread. Sandra's updates came regularly, each one a fresh wound to my already battered heart. They're having dinner alone. Extended time in Julian's room. Beach walk at sunset. With each message, my resolve strengthened. This couldn't go on. Saturday evening, my phone rang. It was Rebecca Sinclair. "Connor, I hope I'm not interrupting anything." Her voice was syrupy sweet. I gripped the phone tighter. "Not at all, Rebecca. What can I do for you?" "Oh, I just wanted to check in. See how you're holding up with Lauren away." My guard instantly went up. "I'm fine. The kids and I are managing." She laughed lightly. "Of course you are. You know, Connor, I was thinking, perhaps we've been going about this all wrong." "What do you mean?" "Well," she paused dramatically, "maybe we should be more supportive of Lauren's ambitions. After all, a rising tide lifts all boats, doesn't it?" I bit back a retort. "I've always supported Lauren's art, Rebecca." Of course," she said quickly. "I just mean, well, this could be such an opportunity for both of you. Julian has connections that could really boost your restaurants too." The implication was clear. "Look the other way, and we'll make it worth your while." "I appreciate your concern, Rebecca," I said, my voice tight. "But I think Lauren and I can manage our own careers just fine." "If you say so, darling," she replied, her tone cooler now. "I'll let you go. Enjoy your weekend." As I hung up, rage boiled inside me. They were all in on it. Using Lauren, trying to manipulate me. It had to end. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear. I paced the house, waiting for Lauren's return. The kids were at my parents', sparing them from the impending storm. Finally, I heard a car pull up. Taking a deep breath, I opened the front door. Lauren stood there, suitcase in hand, looking tanned and relaxed. Her smile faltered when she saw my face. "Connor? What's wrong?" I stepped aside, letting her in. "We need to talk, Lauren." She set down her bag, wariness creeping into her expression. "Okay, what about?" Without a word, I handed her my phone, the damning photos on display. Lauren's face drained of color. "Connor, I can explain." "Can you?" My voice was low, controlled. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty clear." She sank onto the couch, her hands shaking. "It's not what you think. Julian and it was a mistake. A moment of weakness." "A moment?" I laughed bitterly. "Lauren, I have dozens of photos. This wasn't a moment. This was a choice." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Connor. I got caught up in it all, the attention, the praise. I never meant for it to go this far." I sat across from her, my heart breaking. "Why, Lauren? Wasn't what we had enough?" She looked up, her eyes pleading. "Of course it was. Is. Connor, I love you. I love our family. I felt seen for the first time in so long. As an artist, not just as a wife and mother." "I've always seen you, Lauren," I said softly. "I've always believed in your talent." She nodded, wiping her eyes. I know that now. God, Connor, what have I done?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what came next. "I don't know if we can come back from this, Lauren." Her head snapped up, panic in her eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, I think we need some time apart. I've already called a lawyer." "No," she gasped. "No, Connor, please. We can fix this. I'll end things with Julian. I'll quit the show. Please, don't do this." I stood up, unable to bear the sight of her pain any longer. "I need time, Lauren. We both do. I'll be staying at a hotel for now. We'll figure out arrangements for the kids." As I walked to the door, suitcase in hand, Lauren's sobs echoed behind me. It took every ounce of willpower not to turn back, not to take her in my arms and forgive everything. But as I closed the door behind me, I knew it was the right choice. For now, at least. In the silence of my car, I finally let my own tears fall. Our perfect life lay in ruins around us, and I had no idea how to pick up the pieces. The next few days passed in a haze of legal meetings and hushed phone calls with the kids. I threw myself into work, grateful for the distraction of running my restaurants. It was a Tuesday evening when Lauren showed up at Mitchell's, my flagship restaurant. I was in the kitchen, tasting a new dish, when Carlos appeared at my elbow. "Boss, your wife's here," he said quietly. "Want me to tell her you're busy?" I sighed, setting down my fork. "No, it's okay. I'll talk to her. Thanks, Carlos." Lauren was sitting at the bar, fidgeting with a napkin. She looked up as I approached, her eyes red-rimmed and tired. "Connor," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for seeing me." I nodded, taking the seat next to her. "What can I do for you, Lauren?" She flinched at my formal tone. I wanted to talk. About us. About what happened." I signaled the bartender for a drink. "I'm not sure there's much left to say." "Please," she pleaded. "Just hear me out. I ended things with Julian. I told him I couldn't go through with the show." I took a long sip of my whiskey. "And how did he take that?" Lauren's laugh was hollow. "Not well. He threatened to blacklist me in the art world. Said I'd never show in Seattle again." "I'm sorry," I said, surprised to find I meant it. "That must have been hard." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "It was, but not as hard as losing you. Connor, I made a terrible mistake. I got caught up in the fantasy of it all, but it wasn't real. What we have, that's real." I stared into my glass, emotions warring inside me. "Had, Lauren. What we had." "No," she said fiercely. "What we have. Connor, please. I love you. I love our family. I'll do anything to make this right." I finally looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd loved for so long, the mother of my children. Could we come back from this? "I don't know if I can trust you again," I said honestly. Lauren reached for my hand. I let her take it. I know I've broken that trust. But Connor, please give me a chance to rebuild it. For us, for the kids." I closed my eyes, memories washing over me. Our first date, our wedding day, the births of our children. Could I really throw all that away? "It won't be easy," I said finally. "We've got a lot of work to do." Hope bloomed in Lauren's eyes. "I know, but we're worth it, aren't we?" I nodded slowly. Yeah, I think we are." Lauren's smile was watery but genuine. "Thank you, Connor. I promise, I'll spend every day making this up to you." As we sat there, hands clasped, I felt a glimmer of hope. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. But first, there was something else I needed to do. "Lauren," I said, my voice hardening, "tell me everything you know about Julian and Rebecca's operation. It's time we put an end to their games." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. "Okay, where do you want me to start?" As Lauren began to speak, laying out the Sinclair's web of manipulation and deceit, I felt a plan forming. They had tried to destroy my family, my life. Now it was time for some payback. The game was on, and I intended to win. I sat in my office, staring at the pile of evidence Sandra had gathered. Photos, financial records, testimonies from other artists the Sinclairs had manipulated. It was time to put an end to their reign of deceit. My phone buzzed. It was Mark, a gallery owner I'd befriended during Lauren's early days in the art world. "Connor, you said you had something important to discuss?" I took a deep breath. "Mark, what I'm about to tell you might be hard to believe, but I need you to hear me out. You've got my attention." I launched into the story, detailing Julian and Rebecca's manipulative practices, the affairs, the broken careers left in their wake. When I finished, Mark let out a low whistle. That's something else, Connor. But why are you telling me this?" "Because you're not the only one they fooled, Mark. I've been talking to other gallery owners, other artists. We're not alone." "What are you suggesting?" I leaned forward, even though he couldn't see me. "I'm suggesting we take them down. Together. Expose their practices to the world." There was a long pause. "That's a big risk, Connor. The Sinclairs have a lot of influence." "I know, but think about how many careers they've ruined, how many lives they've torn apart. We can't let it continue." Mark sighed. "You're right. Okay, I'm in. What's the plan?" We spent the next hour hashing out details. By the time we hung up, a strategy was forming. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of clandestine meetings and hushed phone calls. Artists came forward with their stories. Gallery owners shared suspicious financial records. The web of deceit the Sinclairs had woven was vast, but it was starting to unravel. One evening, as I was reviewing some documents, Lauren called. "Connor, can we talk?" I hesitated. We'd been civil since our confrontation at the restaurant, but things were still strained. "Sure, Lauren. What's up?" I I heard rumors about what you're doing. About Julian and Rebecca. My guard went up. "What have you heard?" "That you're building a case against them. That you're going to expose everything." I sighed. "It's true, Lauren. After what they did to us, to you." "I know." She cut me off. "I know, Connor. That's why I'm calling. I want to help." I sat up straighter. "You do?" "Yes. I was blind before, but now I see them for what they really are. I have information that could help your case." Relief washed over me. "Lauren, thank you. Can you come to the office tomorrow? We can go over everything." "Of course." "And Connor, I'm sorry for everything." As I hung up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, we could salvage something from this mess. The next day, Lauren arrived at my office, a thick folder in her hands. "These are emails," she explained, spreading them out on my desk, "between Julian and other artists, and financial records that don't quite add up." I leafed through the documents, my eyes widening. "Lauren, this is incredible. How did you get these?" She looked down, shame coloring her cheeks. I started to get suspicious after our talk. I did some digging of my own. I reached out, squeezing her hand. "Thank you. This could make all the difference." She met my eyes, a small smile on her lips. "I want to make things right, Connor. Not just with us, but with everyone they've hurt." As we pored over the documents together, I felt a glimmer of hope. Not just for our case against the Sinclairs, but for us. Maybe we could rebuild after all. But first, we had a battle to win. Weeks of investigation had led to this moment. I sat in my car outside the Sinclair Gallery, heart pounding. The anonymous tip I'd sent to the authorities had sparked an official investigation, and today was the day it all came to a head. My phone buzzed. It was Sandra. "They're moving in now, Mr. Mitchell. Are you sure you want to be here for this?" I took a deep breath. "I need to see it, Sandra. After everything they've done." "I understand. Just be careful. This could get messy." As if on cue, police cars swarmed the street, lights flashing. I watched as officers poured into the gallery, Julian and Rebecca's shocked faces visible through the windows. My phone rang again. It was Lauren. "Connor, are you watching the news?" I swallowed hard. "I'm here, Lauren. Outside the gallery." "Oh my God. Is it true? About the embezzlement?" "It's true," I confirmed. "And that's not all. They've been involved in art forgery too. The whole empire is crumbling." Lauren's gasp was audible. "I can't believe it. I mean, I can, but God, Connor, how did we get mixed up in all this?" "They're manipulators, Lauren. Expert ones. But it's over now." As we spoke, I watched Julian and Rebecca being led out in handcuffs. Their faces were ashen, the reality of their situation sinking in. "Connor," Lauren's voice was hesitant. "What happens now? To us, I mean." I closed my eyes, conflicting emotions warring inside me. "I don't know, Lauren. I just don't know." The next few days were a blur of police interviews and media frenzy. The art world was in uproar, careers and reputations hanging in the balance. I threw myself into damage control, working with Mark and other gallery owners to salvage what we could. But in quiet moments, my thoughts always drifted back to Lauren and our children. One evening, as I sat in my office long after everyone else had gone home, there was a knock at the door. "Come in," I called, expecting it to be the cleaning staff. Instead, Lauren walked in, looking tired but determined. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," I replied, gesturing for her to sit. "What brings you here so late?" She sat, fidgeting with her wedding ring. "I've been thinking, Connor, about us, about the kids, about everything." I leaned back in my chair, bracing myself. And I think I need to let you go." Of all the things I'd expected her to say, this wasn't it. "What?" Lauren's eyes were swimming with tears. You deserve better, Connor. The kids deserve better. I let my ambition and my ego blind me to what really mattered. I broke us. I felt my own eyes stinging. Lauren. She held up a hand. Please, let me finish. I love you, Connor. I always will. But I need to work on myself, to be a better person, a better mother. And you need to heal. I sat there, stunned. Part of me wanted to argue, to fight for what we had. But another part knew she was right. What about the kids? I finally managed. Lauren took a shaky breath. I think they should stay with you. At least for now. You've always been their rock, Connor. They need stability right now. I nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. Are you sure about this, Lauren? She stood, walking around the desk to stand in front of me. I'm sure. It's the right thing to do. As she leaned down to kiss my cheek, I caught a whiff of her familiar perfume. For a moment, I was transported back to happier times, to the life we'd built together. I'll always love you, she whispered. And then she was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the remnants of our shattered life. Months passed. The dust from the Sinclair scandal slowly settled, leaving a changed landscape in its wake. Julian and Rebecca were convicted on multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement, their assets seized, their names forever tarnished in the art world. I threw myself into my work and my children, finding solace in the routines of our new life. Lauren kept her word, focusing on her own healing while allowing me primary custody of Logan and Sophia. It was on a crisp autumn afternoon when I met her. Emily. She'd been recommended by a friend as a potential nanny for the kids, and from the moment she walked into my office, something shifted. Mr. Mitchell? Her voice was warm, her smile genuine. I'm Emily Parker. It's nice to meet you. I stood, shaking her hand. Please call me Connor. Have a seat. As we talked, I found myself drawn to her calm presence, her intelligent eyes. She spoke of her own son, Tom, and the loss of her husband 4 years ago. It hasn't been easy, she admitted. But Tom and I, we're a team. We get through it together. I nodded, understanding all too well. That's admirable, Emily. Logan and Sophia, they've been through a lot too. They need someone who can understand that. Emily's smile was soft. I'd be honored to help, Connor. Children are resilient, but they need support and love to truly thrive. Something warm bloomed in my chest at her words. When can you start? The weeks that followed were a revelation. Emily brought a light into our home that had been missing for too long. The kids adored her, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations at the end of each day. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the kids play with Tom, Emily turned to me. You know, Connor, you're doing a great job with them. They're lucky to have you. I felt a lump form in my throat. Thank you. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough. Emily's hand found mine, squeezing gently. You are. More than enough. In that moment, looking into her eyes, I felt the first stirrings of something I thought I'd never feel again. Hope. Possibility. A future. Time passed, and Emily and Tom became an integral part of our lives. The day I realized I was in love with her was both terrifying and exhilarating. Emily, I said one night as we cleaned up after dinner, there's something I need to tell you. She turned, dishcloth in hand. What is it, Connor? Is everything okay? I took a deep breath. Everything's more than okay. Emily, I love you. I think I have for a while now. Her eyes widened, and for a moment I feared I'd made a terrible mistake. But then she smiled, radiant and beautiful. Oh, Connor, I love you too. So much. As we embraced, I felt the last pieces of my broken heart mending. The decision to adopt Tom came naturally. He was already part of our family in every way that mattered. The day we told the kids was one of the happiest of my life. So, Tom's going to be our brother for real? Sophia asked, her eyes wide. I nodded, arm around Emily. That's right, sweetheart. If that's okay with you and Logan. Logan, usually so reserved, broke into a grin. Are you kidding? This is awesome. As the kids celebrated, Emily leaned into me. Are you sure about this, Connor? I kissed her forehead. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair. Just family and close friends gathered to celebrate the love we'd found in the aftermath of so much pain. As we exchanged vows, I caught sight of a familiar figure at the back of the room. Lauren. Our eyes met, and she gave me a small, sad smile before slipping away. For a moment, I felt a pang of what might have been. But then I looked at Emily, radiant in white, and knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. Later, as we danced under the stars, Emily in my arms and our children laughing nearby, I marveled at the journey that had brought us here. "What are you thinking?" Emily asked, her head on my shoulder. I smiled, pulling her closer. "I'm thinking that sometimes the hardest roads lead us to the most beautiful destinations." She looked up at me, love shining in her eyes. "Well then, Mr. Mitchell, here's to the road ahead." As we swayed to the music, surrounded by the family we'd built, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The past couldn't be changed, but the future? The future was ours to write. And I couldn't wait to see where our story would take us next. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.